The Galactic Union was a grand alliance, a coalition of the most advanced species in the known universe, united against a relentless foe, the Zenith Dominion. These invaders were ruthless, their technology unparalleled, their conquests swift. Among the Union's ranks stood humanity, a latecomer to the stars, often treated as little more than a curiosity by their alien allies. To the other species, humans were primitive, clinging to outdated methods and relics from their violent past. The scorn was palpable. Galactic soldiers would smirk at the sight of human troops. They mocked Earth's reliance on what they called antique weaponry, especially the projectiles humans still wielded in battle. Energy weapons had long replaced such archaic tools among the advanced species. Humans, they said, were stuck in the past, relics of a bygone era. Amidst this tension, one man stood out, Sergeant Marcus Hale. An old soldier by human standards, Marcus bore the marks of countless battles. His gray-streaked hair and weathered face told stories of decades spent in the crucible of war. Clad in a standard-issue uniform, he carried a weapon that seemed laughable compared to the sleek energy rifles of the galactic troops, a bolt-action sniper rifle. It was a weapon modified for alien atmospheres, but at its core, it remained a tool of precision, patience, and lethality. Marcus was a man of few words. While others barked commands or exchanged banter, he observed. His presence often drew derision. "What's the old man with the antique going to do? Throw bullets at them?" One alien soldier scoffed. Marcus didn't respond. He simply cleaned his rifle, his silence a shield against the mockery. The turning point came as the Zenith Dominion launched a massive assault on a vital outpost on the barren moon of Calax 7. The outpost was strategically critical, serving as the Union's last line of defense before the Dominion could strike deeper into Allied territories. As alarms blared and soldiers scrambled to prepare, the tension was palpable. Galactic officers barked orders, their voices tinged with fear beneath their bravado. Marcus stood at the edge of the chaos, surveying the barren landscape through a pair of binoculars. His calm demeanor seemed out of place amidst the frenetic energy. "Sergeant Hale, we don't need you here," a galactic officer sneered. "This is a battle for professionals." Still, Marcus said nothing. He slung his rifle over his shoulder and walked to higher ground, a spot that offered a clear view of the battlefield. His movements were deliberate, each step measured. The galactic soldiers exchanged bemused glances, shaking their heads at the humans' supposed stubbornness. As the Zenith forces approached, the scale of the assault became clear. Their troops moved with mechanical precision, their ranks bolstered by towering war machines and aerial drones. The sight was enough to make even the most seasoned soldiers falter. Yet Marcus remained steady, his rifle now in his hands, the weight of it familiar and comforting. The battle was about to begin, and humanity's old sniper was ready. The Zenith Dominion's forces descended like a storm, their precision and coordination unlike anything the galactic soldiers had faced before. Waves of enemy infantry marched forward, their glowing armor shimmering under the dim light of Calax 7's twin suns. Behind them came the war machines, hulking constructs armed with plasma cannons that could melt through the strongest fortifications. Aerial drones hovered above, their sensors scanning for any sign of resistance. The galactic soldiers responded with what they thought was an equally impressive show of force. Their energy weapons fired bursts of concentrated light, tearing through the first wave of Zenith infantry. Automated defense turrets locked onto targets with mechanical precision, and shield generators created barriers meant to hold back the enemy's onslaught. But for all their advanced technology, the galactic forces quickly found themselves overwhelmed. The Zenith Dominion's tactics were flawless. Their infantry advanced in perfect synchronization, exploiting every gap in the Union's defenses. Plasma artillery rained down from their war machines, neutralizing key defensive positions. The galactic soldiers' reliance on their advanced targeting systems became a liability as the Zenith deployed jamming devices, rendering the tech useless. What started as a confident defense turned into chaos. Amid the confusion, Marcus Hale lay prone on a rocky ridge overlooking the battlefield. His rifle was steady, his breathing slow and measured. Through his scope, he watched the unfolding disaster. Galactic soldiers stumbled over one another, their once organized ranks breaking apart as panic set in. Energy blasts fired wildly, missing their marks more often than not. The Zenith forces pressed their advantage. Their commanders, standing tall on elevated platforms, directed the assault with calculated efficiency. One of them, an imposing figure in ornate armor, caught Marcus's attention. The commander was issuing orders with swift, precise gestures, his position heavily guarded by elite troops. Marcus adjusted the dials on his scope, compensating for the distance and the wind. The range was extreme, even by his standards, nearly a kilometer. Galactic energy weapons couldn't reach that far with accuracy, but Marcus's rifle wasn't bound by those limitations. He took a deep breath, his heartbeat slowing as he focused. The shot rang out, a sharp crack that cut through the cacophony of battle. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Zenith commander crumpled to the ground, a small, clean hole in his helmet. The elite guards around him froze, their movements faltering as they realized what had happened. The effect was immediate. The Zenith troops hesitated, their advance losing its cohesion. The galactic soldiers closest to Marcus's position turned to look at him, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. One of them muttered, "Was that him?" Marcus didn't acknowledge the attention. He chambered another round, scanning for his next target. The battlefield had shifted, if only slightly. The Zenith forces regrouped quickly, but the loss of their commander had disrupted their momentum. For the first time, the galactic soldiers saw a glimmer of hope. Marcus remained silent, his focus unbroken. His rifle spoke for him, each shot precise, each kill deliberate. In a battle dominated by advanced technology, it was the human sniper who made the first real impact. The battle raged on, the Zenith forces continuing their relentless assault. The galactic soldiers, shaken by their earlier failures, were beginning to regroup, inspired by the sudden shift brought about by Marcus's intervention. But even with renewed effort, their reliance on malfunctioning technology and flawed strategies was evident. Energy weapons hummed and crackled, shields flared under the strain, yet the enemy seemed unstoppable. Marcus remained a lone figure on the ridge, methodically working his rifle. Each shot was calculated, deliberate. He didn't fire unless he was certain. While others burned through ammunition in a desperate attempt to repel the Zenith forces, Marcus focused on high-value targets. His next round took out a Zenith drone operator, sending the hovering machines spiraling out of control. Another shot severed the fuel line of an enemy war machine, causing a fiery explosion that momentarily stalled the advance. The galactic soldiers began to take notice. An officer barked over the comms, demanding to know who was neutralizing key targets. The answer came hesitantly from one of the soldiers stationed near Marcus's position. "It's the human sniper," he said, disbelief evident in his voice. "He's picking them apart." At first, the officer dismissed it as luck, but the pattern became impossible to ignore. Every Zenith advance seemed to falter as Marcus dismantled their strategy piece by piece. Commanders fell, support units were eliminated, and critical machinery was disabled, all with unerring precision. The galactic soldiers, once mocking, now watched in awe. As the battle unfolded, Marcus's true strength became evident, not just his marksmanship, but his ability to think beyond the technology that the galactic soldiers relied on so heavily. When the Zenith forces deployed energy disruptors to disable shields and weapons, the galactic troops panicked, their systems rendered useless. Marcus, however, remained unaffected. His rifle needed no energy source, no advanced targeting software. It was a tool that functioned in any environment, wielded by someone who understood its potential. He began issuing commands, his voice calm but firm. "Focus fire on their left flank. Draw their attention away from the ridge," he said through the comms. The galactic soldiers hesitated, unused to taking orders from a human, but the authority in his tone left no room for argument. They followed his instructions, and for the first time, their defense showed signs of coordination. Marcus shifted his focus, targeting the Zenith forces attempting to regroup. His rounds found exposed officers, equipment operators, and supply carriers. Each shot disrupted their formation further, forcing the enemy into disarray. The galactic soldiers began to rally, emboldened by the sudden turn of events. One alien soldier near Marcus turned to him, amazement written across his face. "How do you do it? You make it look so simple." Marcus didn't look away from his scope. "It's not about the rifle," he said quietly. "It's about understanding the battlefield. The patterns, the weak points. You just have to see it." The soldier nodded, a newfound respect evident in his expression. Across the battlefield, the tide was shifting. What had begun as a hopeless defense was transforming into a calculated counterattack. The galactic soldiers, once dismissive of the human sniper, now looked to him as a leader. Marcus didn't seek their admiration. His focus remained on the mission. He chambered another round, scanning the chaos below. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, it felt winnable. The Zenith forces launched their final, desperate push. War machines rolled forward, their cannons firing relentlessly, while aerial drones swarmed overhead, peppering the battlefield with precision strikes. The sheer scale of the assault was overwhelming, and even the most battle-hardened galactic soldiers faltered under the pressure. The outpost's defenses were pushed to their breaking point, energy shields flickering as they absorbed the brunt of the attack. Marcus remained on the ridge, his rifle steady as ever. Through his scope, he surveyed the Zenith's movements, noting their patterns and weaknesses. His focus settled on their largest war machine, a towering behemoth that served as both a mobile command center and a weapon of mass destruction. Its cannons were tearing through the galactic defenses, and its presence was rallying the Zenith troops. Without hesitation, Marcus began calculating the impossible. The war machine's core, buried deep within its armored frame, was shielded by multiple layers of plating and moving components. A direct shot would be useless. But Marcus didn't need a direct shot. He traced the path of its cooling vents, noting the brief moments when the core was exposed during its firing cycle. It was a small window, less than a second, but it was enough. As the galactic soldiers continued their desperate defense, Marcus adjusted his scope. He exhaled slowly, timing his shot to the rhythm of the battlefield. The moment the war machine's core was exposed, he pulled the trigger. The bullet pierced the vent, threading through layers of armor and machinery before striking the core. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the war machine erupted in a massive explosion, its towering form collapsing in on itself. The shockwave rippled across the battlefield, throwing Zenith troops into disarray. Their advance came to a sudden, chaotic halt. The galactic soldiers stared in stunned silence. The war machine, the symbol of the Zenith's overwhelming power, was gone. Slowly, cheers began to rise, spreading through the ranks like wildfire. The soldiers rallied, pushing back against the now disorganized Zenith forces. The enemy, once so confident, began to retreat. As the dust settled, Marcus climbed down from the ridge, his rifle slung over his shoulder. He walked through the aftermath, past soldiers who now regarded him with a mix of awe and gratitude. No one mocked him anymore. Instead, they stepped aside, nodding respectfully as he passed. A young alien soldier approached him, his voice hesitant. "How did you know? That shot. It shouldn't have been possible." Marcus gave a faint smile. "You'd be surprised what's possible when you focus on what matters," he said. "Sometimes, it's not about the technology. It's about the person behind it." The galactic officers, once so dismissive of humanity, now looked at Marcus with newfound respect. One of them stepped forward, offering a formal salute. "Sergeant Hale," he said, his tone sincere, "we owe you our lives. You've proven today that humanity brings more to this alliance than we ever imagined." Marcus nodded but said nothing. He didn't seek recognition or praise. His work was done, and the battle was won. As the soldiers began to regroup and tend to the wounded, Marcus quietly made his way back to his post, cleaning his rifle and preparing for the next fight. For the Galactic Union, this battle was a turning point, not just in the war but in their perception of humanity. They had mocked Earth's old ways, but they had witnessed firsthand what a single human could achieve. Marcus Hale had reminded them that war wasn't won by technology alone. It was won by skill, determination, and the ability to see what others overlooked. In the aftermath, as reports of the victory spread, a new respect for humanity began to grow among the Galactic Union. And on Calax 7, one phrase echoed through the ranks: "In the hands of a human, even a single bullet can change the course of a war."